Hi, welcome to another edition of Blending the Family, the podcast. I am your host, Tommy Maloney, and hold on, I'm all tangled up. I think I'll be okay. All right. Sorry. Podcasting from the car. Great news. If you've been listening to these unique episodes, hold on, I'm pulling out of the garage as we speak. We had snow here in Colorado over on Sunday, so I think I'm running over snow that's in my wheel well. All right. Great news, everybody. The engine light is officially off. Can you hear the snow? It's me backing up onto the snow. Oh, man, I should have left a little earlier. All I see is ice, and not vanilla ice, baby. All right, engine light is off. I am not a mechanic. I cannot explain to you what. All I know is I have a Nissan Rogue, and the engine is apparently different than regular cars for some odd reason. And even though the mechanic, I should say, was able to get the car up and running, I still need to go to another, and I hate to say it, I might have to go to the dealership to get, I think he said something about the transmission needing flush because they didn't have the right machine. I don't know. Like I said, hey, the engine light is off, car is running, we're good, new oil change, and I don't know if I mentioned this, I had a headlight out, and my wife Ann, who's more mechanically inclined than I am, I'm the IT guy at home, and I do well there. I do well. But anyway, she replaced the driver's side headlight, and for some reason, it wasn't working, and it turned out it just wasn't in there. I guess there's a loose connection on the driver's side, and so the mechanic said there's always the possibility that driver's side headlight might go out again. It's just a loose connection. All right, a couple things I want to discuss on this driving while podcasting episode, and a couple weeks ago, I wrote. Well, let me back up. Let me slow down. I write a weekly column, even though I missed last week due to a cold. But I write a weekly column for the Good Men Project. And 2 weeks ago, the topic was called Brady versus Cleaver. So if you're familiar with the Brady Bunch, and if you're familiar with Leave It to Beaver, the Cleavers. So you have the Bradys, and their backstory is a blended family, okay? Blended family. The Cleavers, in my language, is a traditional family, okay? Does that make sense? So we have a blended family versus a traditional family. And one of our podcast guests, Ashley Michelle and I were discussing, is there a need for blended families to help educate traditional families? And like I said, I wrote this article in the Good Men Project, and I'm starting to see more and more differences of what a traditional family doesn't have to go through versus a divorced family or a blended family. And here's what was going on. And this is where part of my mind has been thinking. And there was an incident when I was dropping Connor off with his mom and her husband. And we're going to talk about that as well. And why I love my wife to death, because we'll talk about that. All right. So here's the thing. Bonus daughter Becca had a basketball game, my wife Ann had a meeting, and it ran a little late. So I went to the basketball game before Ann got there. And I love going to, for example, Becca's games, because there are times where if it's an early game, and I would be able to go, I would do play-by-play via text for Ann. And I was doing that for Becca's basketball game. I was doing play-by-play. And when I got to the basketball game, older bonus daughter Betsy, her boyfriend Tristan, was already there. And here's where traditional families might not have to go through something like this. So Tristan is, I can't, I'm going to tell you, he is, when you set the bar for boyfriends, Tristan is way up there. Tristan is one of those gentlemen, and I do mean gentlemen. Whenever he comes over to the house, he says hi, he's friendly, he's just very cordial. There was one other boyfriend that Betsy dated who was not that way. And it really annoyed the heck out of me that you come into our house, you need to respect the parents. I understand you have to earn respect, but still, you come into, and this is a lesson to parents as far as your kids dating. If the person they're dating says hi to you, gives you a handshake, Tristan and I mean, I'm a hugger. I am a hugger. And I know a lot of men are, ew, hugging, ew. You know what? Shut up. I'm tired of this. But Tristan and I would give each other hugs. And like I said, when the bar was set for boyfriends, he exceeds it. He is just a great all-around kid. And here's the thing, too. He's at Becca's game because he is part of our family. He is truly part of our family. And he's there to support her. But when I got there, he was sitting with Ann's former husband and his wife. And it felt, and I'm going to be honest, and if you listen to these podcasts, I hope you understand I am very transparent. I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to tell you how I've screwed up. I'm going to tell you how what our family does. And we're not perfect. But here's where maybe jealousy reared its ugly head. But I was jealous that Tristan was sitting with them versus hanging out with myself and Ann. Now, that is something that not only traditional families, you do not have to go through or maybe even understand. But at the same time, Tristan doesn't understand, even though this is new to him too. This is very new. And his parents divorced, and again, this is not, as I say this out loud, this is something that not only he might not understand the dividing line, and it's not really an us versus them. Again, maybe, like I was saying, maybe I was just jealous because I was hoping he'd hang with me until Ann got there. But this is something that when you're possibly dating, and I'm going to emphasize this coming from, let's say, Tristan's point of view, he doesn't see that. He doesn't understand that because he hasn't really gone through this type of scenario. And again, this is where I'm sitting there going, I wasn't really stewing. I wasn't really huffing. I was just like, dude, I thought you were my boy. But that's okay. That's okay. Because I have to look at the big picture, and the big picture is he was there to support Becca, and we were all there to support Becca and her basketball. Sip of coffee time. Excuse me. It's so nice to have two headlights working now. Their issue with my car, among many things, is I have a hole where the wisher washer. Oh my God! Hold on, more coffee. The washer fluid. There's a hole in the washer fluid tank, and so it's a little difficult at times to see. And luckily, there's still snow on the ground for me to clean out my window. All right, so that was that little take on traditional families versus blended families, other known as the Bradys versus the Cleavers. And I'll put that article in the show notes. Excuse me. Here's the other thing that I want to talk about. And again, this is something I'm giving you inside. And I guess the new, maybe it's not so new, but maybe the terminology these days is called inside baseball. So inside your own world, so to speak. And I know I'm not the only one that has to go through this, but I'm going to give you the question I asked my wife. And after I came home from dropping Connor off with his mom, I asked Ann, I said, what are certain situations where you would not bail me out of jail? Okay, let's think about this. Let's really think about this. And this could be part of Marriage Counseling 101. What are things that you would not bail your spouse out of? Okay? Or would you just give them the benefit of the doubt? I mean, I don't know. I would say I would bail Ann out no matter what. No matter what. Now, as I said, I proposed this question to her. What would you not bail me out of jail for? And there was the obvious. Murder. Child pornography. And I went, ew. I can't remember what the other one was, but I think she said, oh, and I can't think of it now. And that was the one I was hoping she wouldn't say. But anywho, while I was dropping Connor off, we had his hockey gear. He's a goalie, a lot of gear. And I had his hockey bag on my shoulder, and I was bringing it over from my car to my former spouse's car. And her husband said, give me that, I'll take it. And I said, no, it's all good, I can put it in your car. He goes, I don't think you can. Ouch. Ouch. Okay? This is not the first time I have had snide remarks from him. And thoughts started racing in my head. And the sad part was, when he made that smart-ass remark, said it right in front of Connor. Right in front of Connor. So not only is he being an ass in front of me, but he's being an ass in front of my son. Okay? And as I stated, this is not the first time he has said stupid crap to me. And I wanted to punch him. Just wanted to punch him. And this is where my thoughts were racing, where I really want to just... But this is where... I know I've talked about this before, and I've written about this before, and that is taking the high road. And it is so difficult at times. So when I said to Ann, what are things that you would not bail me out of jail for? One of the things she happened to mention that, you do have a little bit of a temper. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And she gave me an example, and I can't remember which example it was. But I'm hoping that I'm not as short-tempered as I used to be. And this is where I'm gonna give another free plug. And one day we're gonna get a sponsor for this podcast. And I firmly believe that the meditation app of Headspace has helped me with that short fuse that I've had. And I don't necessarily think I have a short fuse as much as I when I played sports. I mean, when you play sports, you as a guy, you've got your testosterone moving. You have, you're in competition. You're there to win, and it's sometimes at all costs. So maybe, back then I had more of a temper, but I don't think I have that much of a temper these days. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't see it, and that's probably one of those situations where I need to get out of my own way. Anyway, back to the point, I hope. Ann is really, really good at looking at not just the situation from a third party, but just looking at the situation as someone being in my shoes. And she said, you're a better person of not saying anything than saying anything. And I really hate when she does that, because she's giving me credit. And I know a lot of us, it doesn't matter if you're a guy or a gal, a lot of times, a lot of times we don't like to hear compliments. We don't know how to react to compliments. You're at work and your boss or a coworker says, my gosh, you did a great job on that. You don't know how to handle that. And for a lot of us that don't have a lot of confidence in ourselves, we diffuse it with humor or, oh, I just got lucky, that's all, yeah. But it's really difficult to handle compliments. And that's where you and I need to maybe take that step back and just simply say, thank you. Thank you. 2 words right there. That's it. Thank you. So I'm torn. I'm torn between letting Dipstick continuing to say something. I mean, what would you do? What would you do? I mean, hopefully in a situation where your former spouse's spouse says something, some smart aleck remark, not only to you but in front of your child. I mean, can you say something? I'm thinking, I feel I did the right thing by just not saying anything, walking away, because if if he had not been there, oh heck yeah, I would have gone to town. I would have said something. And as I was telling Ann, I've had my ass kicked several times in my lifetime. I don't care if he kicks my ass. I want to stand up for myself. But it is, and again, maybe I'm thinking out loud here, but is that the right thing to do? I don't know. I mean, I guess the mature thing is taking the so-called high road again and just walking away. But at the same time, I really want to stick up for myself. And as I say the word respond in my head, is respond a negative word in this situation. Is respond not the right word to use. I just feel that being in that situation takes me back to a life lesson I've learned, and that is we criticize in private, we compliment in public. In that situation, that's where maybe he just needs to shut the F up and not say anything. Or hopefully just allow me to help put the stupid hockey bag in the stupid car. And go from there. That's it. I don't know. I mean, I would love, email me. Let me know what you think. What would you do? What would you do if, somebody gave you a smart aleck remark in front of a coworker, in front of your child, and, in front of maybe your spouse? How would you handle it? Or, instead of how would you want to handle it? What would be the best way to handle something like that? Oh, it just frustrated me all the way. And I will admit, at times, I am an emotional eater, and that situation had me go to across the street to a fast food place and get one of my favorite milkshakes is Jamocha shake. If you know the fast food place that has that, that's where I went. I got a Jamocha shake. Yes, large. And yeah. So that's it. That's all I have. Traditional family versus blended family. What would you do in scenario one where your daughter's boyfriend doesn't realize he's taking sides, but it's not really their fault. It isn't their fault. That's all. For me, that's me being me going, oh, he's taking sides. No, he's not. He just happened to be there before I got there. And then scenario number 2. Again, we criticize in private, we compliment in public. What would you do in a scenario where somebody belittled you, put you down in front of somebody else, and again, what would you want to do? What would you want yourself to do in a situation like that? All right. Always, that was me trying not to say, I'll edit that out. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for the downloads. Thank you so much for sharing. I just hope that this podcast means something to you. It means a lot to me that you listen. And I am going to put another ask out there. Please, go to our website, blendingfamily.com. Please, I put this podcast out all by my lonesome. It doesn't cost you anything. Maybe occasionally some time that you wish you had got back. But please, if you see one of the books, go ahead and purchase a book. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for you. It could be for somebody else that that might be struggling. It might be a dad out there who needs the 25 tips for divorced dads. Or of a family that is going through or has gone through a divorce, and the kids are young and they don't know how to communicate their struggles. And and they need our coloring book of 10 tips on how to survive your parents' divorce. So please help somebody else who's struggling. Okay? Thanks for tuning in. If you need me, head over to I'm still tangled up. Head over to blendingfamily.com and shoot me an email, Tommy@blendingthefamily.com. Blending Family on social media. Blending the Families. There's just an S after family on Facebook. Like, share, care, and one day, we're going to have a sponsor. And that'll be so cool. So cool to have a sponsor. Trying to find the off button here. Things not to do while you're driving. Podcasting.